Imagine waking up one morning and realizing the world has quietly changed around you, and so have you. Not in loud, dramatic ways, but in soft, unsettling whispers. The calls come less often. Your energy feels unpredictable, and people, sometimes even family, seem to look right through you. No one warned you that life after 80 would feel like this. But here you are, navigating new realities that feel both foreign and deeply personal. Today, we're uncovering 5 hidden shifts most seniors face, but rarely speak about. If you felt something changing but couldn't name it, this is the video you need to see. You don't notice it all at once. The fading of your social world happens quietly, like the slow dimming of a room's light as the sun sets. At first, it's just a few longer pauses between phone calls. A missed holiday visit here, a friend who says, "Let's catch up soon," but somehow never does. You understand, of course. Everyone's busy. Grandkids grow up and move away, friends relocate or fall ill, and the world continues its motion, faster than you remember it ever moving before. But eventually, you wake up and realize something unsettling. It's been days since you had a real conversation with someone who truly knows you. Not the cashier making small talk, not the neighbor waving politely. You begin to count how often your voice echoes in an empty room. It's not loneliness in the traditional sense. You're not craving parties or constant attention. What you miss is that quiet feeling of being in, afu, not because they genuinely can't wait to hear from you. You might brush it off, even joke about it. "Oh, I've got more time to myself now." But deep down, you know that something is missing. It's not about being needed necessarily. It's about being remembered. And it hurts in ways that are hard to explain. Because even if you've always been strong, independent, and comfortable with solitude, no one is truly prepared for the weight of fading out of people's lives, slowly and without warning. You start holding onto memories more tightly, not out of nostalgia, but out of preservation. You replay old stories in your mind not because you're stuck in the past, but because those moments still feel alive to you. You remember the way your best friend used to laugh, the way your sister always brought pie to family dinners, the feeling of hearing your phone ring and knowing it wasn't spam. These memories don't make you sad. They make you feel human. And perhaps that's the hardest part of this shift. Realizing that the most meaningful parts of your social world now exist more in memory than in motion. But here's the part worth holding on to. You still have the power to reach out, to rekindle even one meaningful connection, to write that letter, make that call, or invite someone over for tea. And if they don't show up, it's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of a world that sometimes forgets the quiet value of staying connected. You haven't disappeared. You haven't become invisible. You are still here, still full of stories, still capable of making someone's day better, maybe even your own. It used to be that a sniffle was just a sniffle, a bruise healed in a week, and skipping a meal didn't throw off your whole system. But after 80, your body begins to rewrite the rules, and it never asks for permission. A small stumble that once earned nothing more than a laugh now leads to weeks of stiffness, or worse, a trip to the hospital. You notice it in subtle ways at first. Your energy doesn't bounce back the next morning like it used to. A sore throat lingers longer than it should, or a small cut takes forever to close. The body, once resilient and forgiving, has become something more delicate, more demanding, and at times more mysterious. The frustrating part isn't just the physical discomfort, it's the unpredictability. You can feel perfectly fine one day and exhausted the next without a clear reason. And that unpredictability starts to chip away at your confidence. You begin thinking twice before taking a walk around the block. Not because you can't, but because you're not entirely sure what your body might do halfway through. That uncertainty lingers in the background, turning simple acts into calculated decisions. You start to ask yourself, did I drink enough water today? Will this new medication make me dizzy again? Should I take a nap or push through? And it's not just you who may brush off these concerns. Family members, doctors, even close friends may shrug it off as just part of aging. But when you're the one living inside a body that no longer recovers on command, you know it's more than that. It's not weakness, it's awareness. You start learning the fine art of listening, not just to advice from others, but to your own rhythms. You begin to understand that a skipped glass of water can throw off your whole day, that poor sleep doesn't just make you grumpy, it makes you vulnerable. What once felt automatic, eating, moving, resting, now requires attention, intention, and sometimes even strategy. That doesn't make you broken, it makes you wiser. Because now you know that pushing through isn't always strength. Sometimes the real strength is knowing when to pause. Maybe you used to be the kind of person who never sat still, who prided yourself on being capable, tough, reliable. And maybe now, giving yourself permission to rest feels like a betrayal of that identity. But it's not. It's a transformation. And like all transformations, it comes with discomfort, yes, but also with a new kind of power. The power to adapt, to protect what remains, to care for your body not as a machine, but as a companion that's carried you through decades. You don't need to fight it. You need to understand it. Because the more you honor what your body is telling you, the more likely you are to move through this chapter with grace instead of fear. It's a strange feeling, the moment you realize that you've become invisible, not in the dramatic sense, not because you've changed, but because the world around you has. You enter a room, maybe a family gathering, a doctor's office, or even just your local cafe, and something is different. People glance over you instead of at you. Conversations carry on without pausing when you speak. You finish a sentence and someone starts a new topic as if your words didn't land. At first, you give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they didn't hear you. Maybe the room was loud. But over time, the pattern becomes too familiar to ignore. It's not that people are trying to hurt you. It's that society has slowly shifted its focus to speed, noise, youth, things that move quickly and brightly. And when you no longer match that pace, it's as if your presence no longer registers with the same weight. You remember a time when your voice could shift a conversation, when people leaned in to hear your opinion, when your experience was something people respected. Now, you feel like you have to work twice as hard just to be acknowledged. Even your own family might interrupt you with a smile. "Oh, Grandpa, we already heard that one," brushing off your memory as outdated or unnecessary. But they don't realize that story still means something to you, that it's not just a tale, but a piece of your life you're trying to hold on to. The hardest part isn't being dismissed. It's the internal question it awakens. Have I really become that easy to overlook? You start to second guess whether what you have to say still matters, whether your thoughts carry the same weight they once did. And slowly, a kind of silence creeps in. Not the peaceful kind, but the silence that comes when you start speaking less because you're not sure anyone's listening. But here's the truth no one tells you. You haven't lost your voice. It's the world that's grown hard of hearing. Because in a culture obsessed with what's next, it forgets the value of what came before. And what came before you still matters. Every wrinkle, every scar, every memory etched into your mind is a record of resilience. You've navigated wars, recessions, heartbreaks, new beginnings. You've witnessed births and said too many goodbyes. You've held stories no one else can tell. And just because the world moves too fast to notice doesn't mean you've disappeared. If anything, your presence is more powerful now, more needed. Because while the young race ahead, they're still searching for meaning. And meaning doesn't come from speed. It comes from wisdom, from stillness, from the quiet courage of being who you are, even when no one's watching. That's why now, more than ever, it's important not to shrink. Speak anyway. Tell your stories. Share your memories, not just for others, but for you. Because the act of speaking reminds you that you still exist, that your life still unfolds, and that your words still have the power to land, even if only in one heart. And often that's enough. You don't need to be the loudest voice in the room to make the deepest impact. You just need to keep showing up. And when you do, you may be surprised who begins to listen. Maybe it's a grandchild quietly absorbing the rhythm of your stories. Maybe it's a nurse who finally looks you in the eye and says, "Tell me more." Or maybe it's a stranger in line who overhears your wisdom and carries it into their own life. Visibility isn't always about being noticed by the crowd. It's about being seen by someone. And the moment you decide not to disappear into silence, you reclaim your place in the world. Not as a relic of the past, but as a living thread that holds the fabric of life together. You've earned your presence. Don't let anyone, no matter how fast the world spins, take it from you. You don't always realize how much your life has narrowed until one day you reach for your shoes, look out the window, and wonder why the idea of going out feels heavy. It's not fear exactly, not laziness either. It's something harder to describe, like the weight of the outside world has grown just enough to feel out of reach. The places you used to go without thinking, your favorite bakery, the library, the park bench under that shady tree, start to feel distant, not just in miles, but in effort. You used to walk there. Now you calculate, will there be a place to sit? What if I get tired halfway? Will I feel out of place? These aren't paranoid questions. They're quiet adaptations. You didn't choose to stop going out as much. It happened gradually, almost invisibly, as the world outside moved faster and your needs shifted in ways even you didn't always understand. The people you once shared routines with, coffee friends, familiar neighbors, folks at church, have moved, passed on, or become less able themselves. Even the physical world has changed. Shops close down, public spaces feel unfamiliar, technology creeps in and makes everyday tasks feel more complicated than convenient. The layout of your life, once wide and colorful, begins to condense. Your living room becomes your safe zone, your favorite chair by the window your go-to destination. And for a while, it feels fine, comfortable even. But comfort can quietly turn into confinement. One day bleeds into the next with no markers between them. You find yourself relying more on the television for noise, the clock for structure, the weather outside as an excuse to stay in. You tell yourself there's nothing urgent to go out for anyway. But underneath that reasoning, there's a softer truth. You miss the feeling of being in motion. You miss the casual hellos, the spontaneous conversations, the sense of belonging to something bigger than your four walls. And yes, there's grief in that. Real grief. Not dramatic, not overwhelming, but the kind that sits quietly in the background like a fog that never fully lifts. You grieve the busyness you used to complain about. You grieve the errands that once annoyed you. You even grieve the traffic, the crowds, the feeling of needing to be somewhere. Because now the stillness sometimes feels too still. But here's what matters most. You're not stuck. The map may be smaller, but it's still yours to redraw. Maybe you can't walk a mile like you used to, but you can walk to the mailbox and wave at a neighbor. Maybe you don't attend church in person anymore, but you can join a virtual service and type a comment that reminds someone they're not alone. Maybe your family lives far away, but a video call, a handwritten card, or a short voice message can create new lines of connection. The truth is, the world hasn't vanished, it's just changed. And so have you. That doesn't mean you've lost your place in it. It means your place is evolving. And within that evolution is a hidden opportunity to design a life that's not just busy but meaningful. The conversations may be fewer, but they can be deeper. The outings may be shorter, but they can be more intentional. Even a 5-minute chat with a delivery person, a quick hello to the pharmacist, or a shared laugh with the grocery clerk can reignite that spark of connection you thought had gone out. You don't need to live large to live richly. You just need to remember that motion of any kind is a form of life. You are still part of the world, still allowed to reach for joy, for conversation, for movement. And if the map of your life has shrunk, it's not the end. It's simply a new chapter asking you to be deliberate, creative, and most of all, compassionate with yourself as you learn how to navigate it differently. One of the hardest truths to accept after 80 is that your body no longer gives advance notice. One morning, you wake up feeling steady, almost energized, like your old self has returned for a visit. But by afternoon, your legs feel wobbly, your grip uncertain, and a wave of fatigue settles in without warning. The inconsistency is what stings the most, not the pain itself, but the unpredictability. You plan a short walk, but halfway through, your knee locks. You reach for a glass of water and your hand doesn't respond quite the way it used to. It's not just frustrating, it's disorienting. You've lived in this body your whole life. You know its strengths, its quirks, its limits. But now it's like the rules have changed overnight and no one handed you the new manual. Every simple task comes with hesitation. Not fear exactly, but caution. A second thought before bending down. A quiet breath before standing up too quickly. Even the most basic movement begins to carry a question mark. And what people don't talk about enough is how this creeping uncertainty affects your confidence. You're no longer just battling tired muscles. You're battling doubt. Doubt about what your body might do next. But buried beneath that doubt is a deeper truth. You are still in control of how you respond. Flexibility, patience, and self-kindness are your new strengths now. You may not move with the same speed, but you can still move with purpose. Your body may falter, but your awareness, your wisdom, has never been sharper. And when you begin to listen with compassion instead of frustration, something surprising happens. You stop fearing the shifts and start managing them. Not perfectly, but powerfully.